In malaria, significant progress has been made in our journey to achieving the 90-90-90 targets. You will all agree with me that achieving these targets with an already overburdened and limited resourced health system is a major challenge. Inadequate human resource, equipment, and logistics in our health facilities impede progress to achieving these targets.
Globally, timely access to antiretroviral drugs and antiretroviral therapy has been shown to substantially reduce morbidity and mortality, reduce transmission risks, even with modest acts, coverage of the HIV-infected population and imperfect act adherence, improve employment rates to levels prior to HIV infection, as well as improve the overall quality of lives of people living with AIDS. In this regard, stakeholders are concerned about inadequate resources impeding prevention. They have called on government and other service providers to collaborate to end the HIV/AIDS pandemic by 2030 as stipulated by the UN.
Now, information gathered by GNTV News from the leadership of Parliament indicates that a workshop is underway at Kufridia in the Eastern Region for a joint committee on constitutional, legal and parliamentary affairs and communications to consider the completion of the final draft of the Right to Information Bill. The second Deputy Speaker, Honorable Alban Sumana Bagbin, who made the disclosure, said the committee are expected to submit the draft bill for further deliberation when the House resumes next week. Honorable Bagbin was given an update on the bill after stakeholders were invited to make inputs in the bill earlier this week.
Yes, it's really unfortunate that it's taking us 19 years to try and deliberate on just one legislation, the Right to Information Bill. Even though the delay has given the opportunity for us to educate ourselves better on that very important bill, I think the delay is also inextricably difficult to explain. I have been part of this process since 1999, when it was initiated by the Institute of Economic Affairs. A few of us were invited to the Institute, and then we started the zero draft. Since then, it's taken us all this while, and there are some technical reasons and also some political reasons why it has taken us this long. This time around, I have emphasized and I've been preaching, and I've reached out to many of my colleagues in Parliament that we should exercise partisanship and then come together, focus on it, and make sure that this time around the RTR bill becomes a reality. And so the committee now has moved to Kufridia together with some of the stakeholders, going through clause by clause. And I'm sure that when we open next week, the committee will be presenting the report, and Parliament will have to find space to let the House deliberate and pass this legislation this year.
Now, His Holiness Pope Francis has accepted the resignation of His Grace Archbishop Matthias Nketia of Cape Coast, and has accepted His Grace Most Reverend Charles Palmer-Buckle as the new Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Cape Coast. This news was released from the Apostolic Nunciature by the Public Nuncio. His Excellency Most Reverend Jean-Marie spake.
This year.
Now, the Speaker of Parliament, Professor Mike Aaron Okwe, has said that he would rather resign than preside over any debate on the floor of Parliament in relation to same-sex relationships. The Speaker added that he will walk out of the House if there is any attempt to start a discussion on the issue in Parliament.
Professor Okwe, who has been a staunch critic of same-sex relationships, said presiding over a debate in Parliament on the topic was contrary to his personal principles and Christian values. Likening Ghanaians' perceptions of homosexuals to what they thought of thieves, Professor Okwe said in an interview with Paul Adomatri on Good Evening Ghana that same-sex relationships were created by Satan to destroy God's best formation, that is the human being. Earlier in the year, Professor Michael Okwe said the House will not be coerced to pass any legislation that endorses gay rights. Addressing a group of religious leaders who paid a courtesy call on him, Professor Okwe insisted that the crop of parliamentary leadership would not endorse an act that majority of Ghanaians abhor.
There is a time when a man or a woman must be guided by some principles.
So in that circumstance, you would leave
Parliament? If it happens, and I know it will not happen, because we are in Ghana.
But if it happens?
If it should happen, just by way of conjecturing.
Yes.
On your bar, my bar. Yes. So, look, it's a phenomenon calculated by Satan to destroy God's best formation. That's the human being.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So it's evil.
Evil. Very, very evil. Dangerous. The church cannot allow it. God loves the sinner. He hates sin.
Homosexuality is a touchy subject in Ghana and provokes strong reactions from the public, mostly in opposition to the acknowledgement of persons engaged in same-sex relationships. Recent comments by the United Kingdom Prime Minister Theresa May, promising to help Commonwealth nations amend anti-gay laws she described as outdated, have provoked suggestions that African countries, including Ghana, were being bullied into legalizing homosexuality. Recently, members of the Parliamentary Christian Fellowship condemned what they described as moves to force Ghana to legalize homosexuality, saying it is unacceptable to pressurize the government of Ghana to treat it as a human right. In a statement signed by its president, Emmanuel Kwesi Bedra, the Christian MP strongly kicked against any consideration of the idea.
Now, that was the Honorable Right Speaker there. You know, he's a Reverend Minister, and so he's talking about the fact that he's going to walk out. He wouldn't even stay in any discussion in Parliament. But moving on to other stories, some members of the minority have bemoaned the delay in the execution of Zongo development projects in their constituencies. According to them, they wonder why they have not received any information as to which projects will be carried out in their Zongos, though provision has been made in this year's budget to cater for the Zongo development projects.
The Zongo Development Fund was set up by the government to speed up the development of Zongo communities into centers of opportunity. Parliament in November last year passed the Zongo Development Fund bill in fulfillment of President Nana Addo's promise during their campaign prior to the December 2016 general election to establish the fund as a way of uplifting condition of the Zongo communities across the country. The government has explained that Zongo communities in the country have over the years bedeviled with infrastructure deficits, lack of social services, and poor sanitation. In line with the government's efforts to ensure the welfare of every citizen, the bill was introduced as a part of efforts to improve the lives of residents in these communities. The government promised to provide $50 million in the fund when established. Under the current budget, a seed amount of 219.5 million Ghana cedis has been budgeted for it. The Minister for Inner City and Zongo Development, Boniface Abubakar Sadiq, has said the fund will be deployed in 5 main areas, namely infrastructure and sanitation, economic empowerment, social development, cultural promotion and security, and crime control. Mr. Sadiq said the roads, drains, clinic, water, electricity and street lighting will be provided in relevant communities under infrastructure and sanitation, while women and the youth will be trained in entrepreneurship, employment skills for economic empowerment. The beneficiaries, he said, will be assisted to draw.
Some I've seen a letter. I know my community. Some of them are beneficiaries, but they have not started work. Is that what we're going to see? How soon will they start work? Appreciate who doesn't seem to understand the challenges in the Zongo communities, and so even
member for.
Rather sad one there, but we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, Adam comes with the business segment.
There's more to life than where one begins, and which is George Weah.
Are not setting up
his presidency would mark the first time.
Be a good boy, be a good girl. How did you muster the courage to call business this one?
It's now time for business.
Launch of the first phase of Ghana's mobile interoperability outfit would have to engage with residents again to educate and iron out differences.
The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has strongly indicated that government will not accept the instances where mining companies declare no profit yet engage in active production to avoid paying dividend to government.
Of the IMF and stakeholders in the extractive industry, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia hinted that government is taking some pragmatic steps to take a relook at the mining laws of the country. Dr. Bawumia, who expressed disquiet about the development, disclosed that mining companies operating in the country have since 2012 refused to pay dividend.
Hello, good afternoon. This is the sports segment of the news, and I'm Matilda Jimedo in sports. This afternoon, the Youth and Sports Minister, Honorable Isaac, sporting discipline. And
now, what would by mid of
2017-2018.
Get this energy from?
It's just we work very hard in training, and in the game we want to win, and we have the desire to win every game. That's why we give everything in the pitch, and it's what I think to do.
When you